Donald Beekman. I live and work in Amsterdam here on this ship in the river Amstel. I've been a graphic designer for 40 years something, and a type designer as well. I've been published by Font Shop and a lot of other. I have my own font foundry called Vette Letters. I've been the host and DJ for a Typeradio, like a podcast interview station, together with Lisa Enebis, and she's now the creative director for Dunbar. So because of that position, Typeradio is sort of, simmering, not really dead, but there's not much happening actually. But there's plans coming up for doing a new episode, and that may be in a different form of for Typeradio. So that's basically it. I run my studio. It's called dbxl, Donald Beekman Extra Large, with my wife Ariane, and we've been doing it like for a long time. Just together. Like behind you there, that's the studio. So, and I've had clients mostly in the music business, and also a lot of theater, and I've also done a lot of designs for a smart drugs company called Conscious Dreams, but they've been bought over by a huge American company, and that sort of made the job end for me. So I'm not doing that anymore. Well, that's basically it. It's the other way around, yeah. I really was a graphic designer, and I studied that in art school in the 80s, early 80s. And for me, it was like inherent that I would also, if you design a poster, then the lettering on the poster should also be your design. I was not against using other people's typefaces, but I really thought, well, this needs like a specific alphabet or something. So I started making alphabet for these poster projects that I did, and in the end I had all these sort of files, and in the beginning it was like cut and paste, like really out of paper, and cutting it out of cardboard and stuff, and then it became digital and I started doing that. But I had a number of alphabets laying around, and then Max Kisman, he's sort of a peer colleague of mine, and we speak each other regularly, and he said to me, you should have those, turn them into fonts and and you can sell them, because sometimes in an alphabet you would use it like 4, 5, 6 times, and then it would be lay in a shelf and not use it anymore. And then he said, well, then other people can use it, which was like sort of a problem in the beginning. I thought, no, I don't want other people to use my fonts. Are you crazy? Then they'll steal my ideas and my concepts, and that's not what I intended to make them for. So, and then after a while, I sort of realized, well, that's a good idea. So I proposed a shitload to Font Shop, and they said, we want them all. So, and I had never made a font in my life. I had all these Adobe Illustrator files, EPS files, and I just cut and paste, and that's how I made like word images. I never used it for typesetting, so I really had to learn how to make fonts in a very, very quickly, very short span of time. So, which I did, and I sort of produced those fonts. They are awful now. If I look at them now, the spacing is like there's hardly any spacing, if at all. So it's really like if I had to redo it now, I would do it completely different now. But again, I mean, it's the time. That's how you do it then, and then you learn and you do it differently afterwards. I didn't stop. I still make fonts, and it mostly still emanates from logo designs that I do. I always start sketching. It's a sketchbook and a pencil. That's every idea, sort of every concept starts with that, and then mostly if I see a possibility and say, well, this could be nice, and then you try to finish the whole alphabet. And if I get stuck on the K, then I said, oh fuck it, never mind. Well, then it's just not a good idea, and sometimes it really ends up into a font. So. And I also, since I officially became, especially after that presentation at Typo Berlin, which really established me as a type designer, which of course I make type, but I still don't really see myself a type designer. I'm still more like a graphic designer than a type designer. Although it's so intervened, everything like sort of switches around all the time, so it's not really important to say what I am exactly. But I have been starting making fonts just because I had an idea for like, I had this instance, I made this mice font for Vette Letters, and that was like idea. I had like Futura Black, that sort of stencil, and then I saw this Mexican signage or some Mexican ad or something, and it would show like these huge Latin serifs on it. And I thought, what if you use, because Futura Black also has these triangles in the shapes. Now, what if you make huge serifs on Futura Black? And that's just like a thought concept. I really wasn't sketching, I was just thinking that. And then out of that came that font. So then you sort of start doing it, and then, pretty easily it sort of starts to work. And you see it happening, and then you sort of finish it, and then you turn it into font. So, but that's basically an idea that I have for a font. But mostly of them, they come from logo designs or like rejected logo designs or whatever, you know. Well, it's a very sort of organic, logical extension. Everything is an extension of another thing. Like you design a logo, and then sometimes a typeface comes out of that. That typeface can be used in branding, and it's like everything. Like it has to look good and has to have the right feel. Because of experience that I gathered over the last decades, you sort of learn how things work with an audience, people who look at it, sort of how the visual imprint is of the work that you do. So that makes you realize more like, this is more like for older people, or this is more like it. Really, also because you work with branding companies, and that's also like a learning experience. But they tell you, but that doesn't work because da 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 da, and then that's all. It's all gathered in your brain, and then you start doing branding. You start applying it on. You just don't do like, I make a logo. You think about, how does this work? How is this conceived by the audience that is meant to be used for? So it's all like one organic big flow of creativity and design work. It's basically all design work. Well, the branding is really something of the last 10, 15 years. You would say you sort of you learn that it's there, that it exists, and branding. You're thinking about like what you're making it for. I would make stuff for myself because I like it, and there happens to be other people who like it as well. So good, but it doesn't. If they wouldn't, I would still be. I like it, So it didn't really make a difference. But of course, it does make a difference if it has any impact what you do. Then you start realizing, I could make this really wild, design for a company that's sort of toned down and very sort of modest. It doesn't make sense, and you learn that. Of course, this is like a very black and white example, but it's still you learn about the effectiveness of the work that you do, and that changes the way that you work, the way you think about your work, and also in your next project you take that knowledge with you, and then you do it in a different way, a little bit, not really dramatically, but so that's it. No, well, the thing is, I have these ultra loyal clients. There is this one pop music foundation in Amsterdam, and I founded it myself in 1982, which is like 40 years ago. And it was like basically a couple of bands. I was in a band. I played bass in a experimental funk band, and then in art school there were like 25 bands in every year. So it was like, and all these people wanted to play at the Paradiso or the Melkweg, which is like the bigger pop music venues. And the programmers were all saying, now, well, you don't draw enough people, so we can't have you play here, blah 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 blah. And then there was a frustration among the music. Because you meet in rehearsing rooms, everybody knows each other, so, and everybody was sort of frustrated that we couldn't play at the Paradiso or the Melkweg. And then somebody said, well, we should make a collective, if we have like 10 or 12 bands, then it's like everybody's grandparents together, that's a crowd, So then that's how it came about. And there was this youth center in the south of Amsterdam, and there was a guy there who was sort of youth worker, and he said, well, I can do sort of the business side, and the business side was just like, asking for a grant from the government and on, taking care of the paperwork. That's what he did. And then they had they turned one room of the youth center into a rehearsal room, and everybody started rehearsing that. And that was like Stichting Grap, the Groepenraad Amsterdamse Popmuziek, the Group Council of Amsterdam Pop Music. And then that like at their second meeting, that's we also need posters for them because at the youth center we could also do gigs there. We could play there. So like every week there would be like 2 or 3 bands playing on Friday evenings, or sometimes some Sunday afternoons as well. And they said we need posters, and I said, well, I was like in first year or second year of art school, so like, I can do posters. So within, like, it wasn't a paid job. I had a job. I really was immediately. I could put the stuff that I learned in school. I could really sort of try it out. I already started drawing my own alphabets then. That's when I really started the work. And over the years, I am into my 5th general manager. And I'm sort of part of the furniture a little bit, because I'm now 61, and I'm really telling them, if it gets sort of awkward, I'm sort of missing the point, please tell me, don't let me don't be out of pity, keep me on or something. I didn't feel like doing that, but they're still very happy with me. And in a way, I didn't get paid when I started it. Of course, they had a little budget, got paid a little bit, and I still get paid that little bit because I felt like I should really sort of give something back to the pop music scene in Amsterdam. And they really value my expertise and my knowledge, and I really know about. And I sort of, for myself, it's fantastic because you learn all these new bands, these coming up, all these young kids, and you do all this new music, and and they have these projects, and it's mostly like talent shows, You can enlist, and if you're a singer-songwriter, you have a mooie noten. You have a singer-songwriter competition. They have a battle of the band competition. They used to have a DJ producer competition, and they had like 5 or 6. And every year there's an edition. So every year there's 5 of these projects coming along. So all year around, I just gather ideas. I do sketches. I take pictures, and I put them all in a folder. And when I need to do like a singer-songwriter competition, like edition 2022, then I just go through the folder or have another idea, and then, so you can always sharpen your pencil on this because these jobs are coming, and you don't really have to sort of start from scratch, and because you know what it is, and you know what they want, and you really we've done this last year and the year before that and the year before that. So now it should be more purple. That's like the branding meetings we have over there. We should be maybe purple. Yeah, okay. And that's all the briefing that I get. Because I know he knows what to do. Something cool will come out of that, and it mostly does. Sometimes sometimes it's better than other years, but it's like an ongoing process, and you can keep on doing it, and that's wonderful. I've been doing it for 40 years. I mean, that's amazing, actually, to have a client for 40 years. I call myself very lucky in that respect, So that's the most important thing I am working on now, actually, because I will probably until I'm 65. I don't know. I still keep them every year. Like, if it gets awkward, please let me know. Like, I'll just be happy to sort of step aside and have some young guy. But in a way, they're sort of also amazed by the fact that I'm still there and still delivering and still not really a lot of missing the point. And they're sort of, they can leave it up to me, and they don't really have to worry about the design because that's always okay. That's always, yeah. So. I suppose that if I live in another city, my work would be different. So I mean, it has an Amsterdam quality. That's no doubt. And I wasn't born here. I was born in Amstelveen, which is sort of a suburban town on the south side. But it was like I lived like a mile from Amsterdam. I was born a mile from. So basically, I consider myself to be an Amsterdam-born guy. Although people will sort of refute that. But anyway. I can't really tell which is specifically Amsterdamese. I've been using, especially my type design work, I've been using Amsterdam historical design a lot as a starting point for. There's the Vondelpark, the major park in Amsterdam. It has like lettering on the gate, and you pass that gate like twice a week, and you've seen it like that's cool, that lettering. I should do something with it. And then all of a sudden you start making it into a font because there was this singer-songwriter competition of Amsterdam bands, and it's Amsterdam. That's also the restriction for this pop music foundation. It has to be Amsterdam bands, although it's like if there's one member who lives in Amsterdam, that's fine. So, but then you start looking for Amsterdam design qualities and also from history. And I was also been really interested in Amsterdamse school architecture, that architecture style from around 1900, which is sort of arts and crafts, Jugendstil equivalent of in building. And that's also my interest for Berlage, the building master, which also turned into a huge font family. So yeah, it inspires me and I take stuff from it and I use it in that way. So, but it's more in my type design than in my graphic design, because in imagery and sort of, especially in pop music, you can be ironic in a way. It doesn't have to be sort of really fitting. You can take a Korean fast food flyer from 1974 and that could be the starting point for a flyer of a band who's playing next week in the Melkweg, for instance, you know. It doesn't have to be, so that's also the freedom that I take. You just take that inspiration from everywhere and sort of, you know, make it your own and, you know, give it a swing and try if to make something new. That you hope that something new comes out of that, a new way of, a new imagery in a way. No. That could be because I was not really. I did art. I did do art school. I did graphic design, although I did it in a very special way, because as I told you, I was already making these wild painted typographic posters for these punk bands and so there was for me already, there were no restrictions. You could do whatever you want, you know, like cut it from paper or like, you know, use whatever you want to get the message across and get that look. And then after the Rietveld Academy, you do the first basic year, which you get all the techniques and all the different photography, fast, you do everything. And then the second year, you sort of specialize in the graphic year. And I ended up studying audiovisual design because I also wanted to do and learn how to make animations. So that was sort of half in my bag, but I wanted to learn typography because I had, like, in the first year I learned took my first steps in. And it was very nice, Hendrik Barends, a very nice teacher, and he taught us the basic stuff, and I was like, wow, that's what I want to do, you know, make letters, because I was always, as a kid, as soon as I could hold a pencil, I was drawing, and I was mostly drawing letters, sometimes also goldfish or animals, but I was always drawing letters. Also, you saw the conception that when you learn how to read and write, that sort of, it was, for me, it was like, wow. If you do this and you show that and somebody understands what it says, you know, like, that's amazing. That's a miracle in a way. So but then I got into the second year and I applied, because you had to apply for the graphic design year. And then I had this stack of wildly painted posters and silk screened it myself, and I learned that as well. And then this teacher was Jan Boterman. He said, well, yeah, there's all these sort of, you know, it's very tiny mouth. Yeah, this is all very nice. But the first 6 months we'll be spending to sketching a 14-point Helvetica light, and then we'll see what happens after. And I was like, fuck. And I was really sort of panicking, and I was like, fuck, I don't want to do this for 6 months. Now it's boring, you know. Like, and he didn't show any attention. He didn't show any attention or like interest in the work that I've done. And I was like, for a week or a week and a half, I was sort of running around school and walking, and I was really started getting depressed almost. Like, I can't do what I want, you know. And then I ran into Jos Houweling, and he's like the supervisor of the audiovisual department, which had just been founded the year before. And that was sort of a gathering place for all the lost souls of the art school who didn't fit in elsewhere. And he said, I don't know how's it going. And I go, well, I have this problem. Oh, and a fellow student said, talk to Jos. He can help you. And then I sort of went up to him and I explained that this is what I want. Well, then you come to audiovisual and I just become one of the audiovisual students. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but I really want to learn typography and history. And I said, that's probably you just pick from graphic design, you just pick some teachers that you want to sort of follow the curriculum, and then you'll be fine. So and I was like, okay, and that's what I did. So I just picked any teacher that I sort of really was interested in, or I just tried it out and started the curriculum with like that guy, and so I could basically sort of make my own program there. So and I was like sort of really obsessed with working and and learning, and I ate it all. I was like working every day, and I'm doing stuff and strange projects, and I learned all to work with sound because I've also been in bands playing music, so music was also a big thing. And it was also in audiovisual department. There was this sound guy who sort of learned how to record, and I also learned interview techniques, and I had no idea how I would ever use that. I ended up doing Typeradio, so it came in sort of handy, although I don't really remember that much from what I would learn in art school. But it's really like, that's that. Oh, cool. Give it to me. I want to do that too, And that sort of, that really sort of eagerness to sort of learn and develop yourself was really sort of important in art school. And it sort of formed me, sort of. It's now a little bit less. Not at all. I mean, life has changed so incredibly much. Also, art education has changed immensely. And also the school that she was in, and she's also doing product design, I'm doing graphic design. So it's really, I can help her in general. And we do talk a lot about stuff, and she asks me, like, can I do this? But she's also really stubborn and has, hard-headed, and she wants to learn herself, which I really, we sort of, okay, you figure it out. Which is also kind of a learning experience. So yeah, that happens a lot. Yeah, it's also like working with people, and then you get sometimes you get disappointed by the people not doing anything. So then I say, well, you have to always take into account that people don't do that. Like you ask them and say, yeah, sure, I'll do that. Always take really in the back of your mind, it might be a possibility that it doesn't happen, and you have to do it yourself. And that's all these small sort of practical tips that I have for her. If she listens is a second, but yeah, it's wonderful. It's really yeah. We were looking for a house. We were living in a sort of semi-squat in the early '80s, and then we had to we had to move out because it was sort of turned into a huge posh apartments, and then the city had to offer us an apartment. So we went there, and you get like 3 apartments offered, and then with the third we had like our daughter like was on the way, and then we turned down 2 because we didn't like them, and the third one, like, oh wow, it didn't have any outside space. So they were like, not even a balcony. We could open the windows, but it was very near the Vondelpark. So we figured, okay, we'll accept this house as then we can move out. And then after I think a couple of years, we were sort of really unhappy because, with a young kid and then moving to the park every day is a hassle, like so. And then we started looking for buying stuff, but the prices were already like really going up. So we saw it moving out of our vision. Well, basically, we couldn't stay in Amsterdam, we thought. And then we had friends who lived 10 ships south, and we had like a barbecue on deck in the summer, and with a glass of white wine, and then I said to Ariane, my wife, like, well, how about this? And she said, well, good luck, because it's fairly impossible to find something. And then I spent a year online, like every day I went to the studio, opened the Safari or whatever, and then started looking. There's 3 designated houseboat websites, and then this one came up, and then for some reason we got a mortgage for it, and then it all happened, and then we started living here. Yeah. And also we moved the studio as well, so we work there behind you. That's and it's like in the summer, it's outside is like an extension of your living space. I mean, you sit, doors are open, you sit on the back deck in the sun. If you're hot, you jump in the water, and it's like that. So it has a disadvantage because ships really need a lot of work. So there's this Dutch saying: "Koop een boot en werk jezelf dood." It means buy a boat and work yourself to death. Which is like an exaggerating, but it is true. It is a lot of work. So I don't see myself like scraping the gangways when I'm 84. So it will come to an end in one day or another. So, but that's the downside. But living here is fantastic. I mean, it's really also because we're in the city. I'm just in 15 minutes on my bicycle. I'm on Dam Square, and really, if you look outside, it's so green. It's like you're really in nature, and that's also wonderful. So.